Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt, Steve, and we've got Susane Leser all the way from Germany. How are you, Susan?
I'm very good, thank you. A bit early in the morning, but it's a pleasure to join you.
It's early in the morning.
Something good to wake up for.
Absolutely, or late in the afternoon. Absolutely, you've got to wake up looking at us. It must be fantastic for you.
Very good, all in jackets and things, amazing.
Yes. Oh, goodness, let's start this.
It's towards the end of our day, so this is when I start to go a little bit weird. So I'll try to keep it all under control, but we'll be right. We'll come up with some great content, I'm sure.
I'm fired up because it's my first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah, awesome,
good.
Awesome.
Just after the coffee.
Yes, absolutely. Good on you for having that caffeine.
Just remind me.
Yeah, and it really is a fantastic topic today, because today we're going to be talking about all things collagen. And, you know, we're going to be addressing all those issues about collagen and, you know, where it is found in the body, what it does in the body, what's the best form, when to take it, how much to take, what does it actually do for you. Incredible. It's more than just protein, isn't it, Matt?
Oh, it is. I first discovered Gelita. Susane's from Gelita. I first discovered Gelita 2014, 2015. I think it took me about till 2016 to be able to actually really harass them enough to have a business that I could actually do something with the collagen. We launched in Australia in 2017, and I think we were the first real big push of collagen in Australia, and Gelita's first big one, specifically working with the BodyBalance.
Yes.
And I never forget at the time, because it's only a few years ago, but so much has changed within that collagen industry in that short period of time, considering back in 2015, 16, 17, all the research I was doing was comparing collagen to whey, or comparing collagen to just dietary protein, and trying to get my head around it. A lot of people talking about things like protein score and branched chain amino acids and leucine content. And when we first launched the product, we thought, man, we'll be fine. Like, it's a bit of education. But we were all hanging our hopes on a paper that was going to get published, showing all of this sort of stuff, comparing it to whey. We'll talk a little bit more about that paper that has yet to be published. But it was a challenge at the time trying to explain to people, because people were saying things like, is collagen protein? Because we can't label it. They're saying you can't label it as protein in Australia and they're talking about protein score, and everything was at the time was all comparing to whey, branched chains, and leucine. Well, now in 2020, we've moved on and we're comparing collagen to collagen. So things have changed a lot. Okay. So in the podcast today, I want to go through that, talk about the collagen versus whey, collagen versus leucine, why collagen is different. And I also want to go then and talk about collagen versus all the other different forms of collagen, in particular talking about the Gelita technology, and what makes yours different to everyone else's in the world as well, and why we selected to work with you guys, and the science. We got mountains worth of science on the paper and table that we've printed off all your published data. So
crazy stuff.
The protein score. So my answer, sorry, I'll let you speak in a second. I keep waffling, but my answer was, it's not your sole source of nutrition. Why do you care about the protein score? Did you want to expand on that?
Why do we care about the protein score? Well, to be honest, at Gelita, from a collagen perspective, we don't care about the protein score. Yeah. Let's talk about the score, because that's an interesting point. If you think about it, it's the big concept in nutrition is the protein quality scores. It's something that has been simplified just to use a number, a score that you give to a protein to say it's a high quality, medium quality, or low quality based on the profile of essential amino acids. So think that we have 20 nutritional amino acids in protein. Yeah, of course, we will have some variations, but let's say 20. And the protein quality scores is only looking into the 9 essential amino acids. And what are these 9 essential amino acids? Are the amino acids that the body cannot produce at the speed required, and therefore you have to take from the diet. However, for growth. Yes, so if you look at how the essential amino acid needs are made, they are based on the growing children. So we are talking about reference of needs of essential amino acids that are for children from 3 to 10 years old. Not me, not you, not our consumers, not the gym goer, for example. Yes. So that's one point, one limitation of the amino acid score. And another one is there are many other benefits of all the other non-essential amino acids, which are the other half of that protein that is not talked about in this concept. Yeah, and these amino acids will be needed too for many functions. Yes, but we don't know the needs yet of these amino acids, or we assume that they are not needed for growth because the body can produce them. Yes, for growth, but not for the other needs. So let's say after we have grown, and this is from the age of early 20s, our amino acid needs might change because now we are aging, we are having health problems, and all the amino acids will have a role to play too. So the amino acid scores don't consider that is one limitation. The amino acid scores are based on the needs of children from 3 to 10 years old. So we still don't know the reference pattern or how much an athlete, for example, needs. And all the different athletes that we talk to. There is the endurance athlete, there is the strength athlete, or for example, what are the amino acids that we need for aging? Mm-hmm. And if we think about aging, and that's where I bring back to collagen, is one of the main characteristics of aging is that we are declining our production of collagen in the body. So are these amino acids in collagen needed more in aging than during growth? Potentially, but we still don't know that. So that's why I say the protein quality scores, they don't really apply to collagen in our view. Okay. Especially also because we are talking protein from a different point of view. We are talking protein from a bioactive effect. Is that when we put together, and we can talk about it in more depth, but that's when, we put together lots of amino acids together to have a specific effect. And that's what bioactive collagens and collagen in general is about. It's not only about each amino acid it provides. So for us, the protein quality scores really, they don't matter. They are important for malnutrition, for example, for infant nutrition. Yes, but for children growing, but not for our consumers.
Now, if I consider also that, we're talking about in this instance a protein supplement, like we're talking about a post-workout or a snack or something like that. We're telling people to incorporate 15 grams of this collagen into their daily protein allocation. So we're not talking about being the sole source of protein in their diet. So we're assuming that the tryptophan or other essential amino acids that may be lacking in the collagen will be picked up in the other dietary sources that they're eating.
Absolutely.
Outside of the 15-gram supplementation. So unless it is a source of nutrition, such as a baby formula or a meal replacement for hospitals or elderly, which is a special purpose food, that protein score is totally irrelevant. You mentioned an interesting point before about the amino acids, and that's one of the big things that I picked up with Gelita that was very different was the bioactive peptides. So we're talking about not just collagen, because when I'm listening with protein, a lot of people will talk about breaking that protein down to amino acids. They're going to look at that amino acid score, say which one of those amino acids do I want in my body and blah, blah, blah. And they'll just look at this amino acid profile and think it's all going to be totally broken down and then hopefully rebuilt back in the body as collagen. But there are also within your product, you actually have specific peptides that are measurable and predictable and active. Did you want to explain a little bit about how do you make those peptides? How do you know what peptide does? Because we've talked, it's just for the listeners and that, I don't know why I looked that way because I'm assuming I had an audience of listeners, but just for everyone else out there, peptides that we've discussed in the past, maybe things like gluten or insulin or casein or growth hormone, they're all different peptides and such significant different effects. So how does Gelita know what your peptides do?
Good question. I will get back to your previous point because I think you made a very interesting point about the other amino acids that are lacking in collagen, in the essential amino acids we can get from the diet too. In the protein quality scores, collagen receives 0, as you know, because it hasn't got tryptophan. Do you know how much you need of tryptophan? It's
Is it
2% of the
Yeah.
it's 2 or something.
Yeah.
It's such a negligible quantity that you're very right. You can get that from the diet. Please, somebody or listeners, if I'm wrong, please point to me any case of tryptophan deficiency, especially amongst our consumers. So that doesn't exist. These amino acids are coming from the diet, all right. And our recommendation, and I'll bring back to the collagen peptides now, is 15 grams for the BodyBalance product, which means when we provide the bioactive collagen peptides, you don't need also to supplement with a very high amount of protein. Anything beyond 20 grams, 25, 30, which is what's normally recommended for protein. And why is that? When we produce the bioactive collagen peptides, I will make an analogy that is not my analogy. I'm copying from a researcher who made this analogy like more than 50 years ago. But it's just like the letters of the alphabet. Yes. So we have 20 amino acids, which is a limited quantity of amino acids, as much as we have a limited number of letters in our alphabet. Yes. And the way we combine these letters, we form different words. We form different sentences. We are rude, we are polite. So by making these combinations, we have a tremendous amount of possibilities. So it's the same with amino acids in the food matrix. Yes, however, it's just like making a puzzle or something. When these amino acids, when these peptides, they are in the food matrix, they are continuous, they are locked in, they are inactive. And you rely on hydrolysis to take out, to activate this peptide and form your sentence or your word. Yeah, so the bioactive collagen peptides that we extract, they are just like sentences saying it increases lean body mass or improves tendons and ligaments. Yes, and we consistently achieve the hydrolysis to achieve that sentence or the benefit. Yes, and of course, hydrolysis is something very simple. We are doing that all the time in our digestive system. However, if you rely on taking gelatin, imagine that gelatin, you have these peptides there, but they are locked in, they are inactive. And you take the gelatin, so you are counting on your digestive system to hydrolyze to what you want. But could be that your digestion today, it's going to yield peptides that are good for the skin when you want to resolve a problem in your knee.
Yeah.
Yes?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what we do is a very simple hydrolysis process in our manufacturing process of hydrolysis of gelatin to have the bioactive collagen peptides. We control for 3 things, being just very simple. The enzymatic pool, what enzymes we are using, temperature, and pH. So it's still a simple hydrolysis process, but with some controls. And when we apply these controls, we consistently achieve the peptide sequence that is that says good for lean body mass. And we consistently achieve that.
And then that's measured?
Again,
is that measured each batch? So
Yeah.
we have that ability to, the quality control. So we got the recipe to get there, but then you're also checking every batch to make sure you've created that blend of peptides that have that specific function.
Absolutely, we do. And we do that by measuring the molecular weight distribution profile of the batch, because we know that, for example, BodyBalance has got an average molecular weight profile of 3.5 kilodaltons. It's not that all peptides in that product will be of the same 3.5 kilodaltons. It's a molecular weight distribution profile. There are different peaks. It's just like your fingerprint. So your fingerprint is your unique identifier. Only you has got this fingerprint, which is a distribution of lines. So we have a distribution of peaks in that molecular weight profile. So we do 2 things in our quality control. We check to consistently achieve the same molecular weight distribution profile, and we do periodically tests in vitro. To check the bioactivity. And we do across the shelf life as well. So we have to ensure that the batch that we produced this morning, will have the same bioactivity 2 years later.
Yeah,
And we
excellent.
control that way. And we also and this is also linked to how we discover these peptides. So for example, everybody gets surprised, as you have seen, that the body balance studies have this effect on the body composition. But to be very honest with you, that doesn't come as a surprise for us because we have done the preclinical trials. So we know that this peptide, this specific peptide of a particular molecular weight distribution profile, compared to, for example, our peptide for skin health, has got a better stimulation towards the markers, towards the mTOR, for example, for muscle, than the one for skin health has. Of course, the skin health will have a bit, but it's not as optimal as the product that composes body balance. And then after screening this and discovering this, we take that to the preclinical, to the clinical trial, to the study in humans that we see and find, oh, it's remarkable. Not for us, because we wouldn't have done that study if we haven't had the hint that actually we are impacting many metabolic pathways, including the mTOR.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I had a good chat with Hans and Stefan. They were telling me that so we're talking about this hydrolysis process, which is breaking down the large protein down smaller and smaller into amino acids. They said basically they didn't dare to dream of what these peptides would do. So they just put them into a medical model, just straight up put in vitro medical model, mTOR, AMPK stimulation, these different markers, and just said, okay, well, with no emotion or sentiment of this peptide does this thing. And then they went and expanded on that and studied it and narrowed it down. And I thought that was excellent and then what they did is they just reproduced the hydrolysis process to recreate those same peptides and then have a consistent result. What I was curious about when you're talking, and we have had some of these questions come through, but that hydrolysis process you discussed that you do with temperature and enzymes and pH and that sort of stuff, can we further hydrolyze the peptides ourselves by cooking them or through our digestive process? Are they hydrolyzed further, or are they preserved through cooking and absorbed intact? Or
So partially yes. We conservatively believe that 10% of the bioactive collagen peptide will be absorbed intact. So you can further hydrolyze it in your digestive system by cooking and then preparing other products with it. However, what is very special about the collagen, what makes actually collagen an exception to the rule of protein, because it really is. If you look at the proportion of proline and glycine in collagen, that is nearly 50%, 50% of glycine and proline. And we usually dismiss these amino acids and say, well, they are non-essential amino acids. We can produce. However, in the structure of the collagen, they play a very important role because they deliver the functionality, this bioactive effect of the collagen. So proline and glycine, they are the signature, let's say, amino acids in collagen that form the signature peptides of collagen. So when they bind together, the peptide bond, the link between these two amino acids is very strong. Most proteins in the diet are these globular proteins. They are hydrolyzed very easily. They form like trans bonds, and they serve as a source of amino acids. But collagen binds together very strongly, even in our body, because think that collagen, the role of collagen in the body is to give the body structure and to be like a rope, to be strong. So we need the link between these two amino acids. So it's good for the peptide as well, which means is a peptide bond that's very difficult to break down. Yes, so it does two things, two very main things or very important things to the bioactivity and absorption of the peptide. It makes it resistant to hydrolysis, but also proline, especially proline, form kinks in the collagen chain. So imagine that you have a spring and you start like making kinks in the spring in a way that this peptide becomes long and thinner. And when it's thinner, it only has like 13, 14 angstroms. And that is what it needs to pass the tight junctions in the gut. So that's how we believe the bioactive collagen peptides are absorbed. Is a remarkable and unique property of the proline binding to glycine. So when it passes your gut, and your digestion is going to last around 30 minutes to 1 hour, most, or at least, I would say conservatively at least 10%, because that's usually very difficult to measure in the human gut. But 10% at least, it's going to stay in that conformation, because it's a very difficult peptide bond to break, and has got this shape that passes through the tight junctions in the gut. So you have the peptide absorbed. That is, again, an exception to the rule of protein, because most proteins, let's say whey protein, will have only 2% glycine. Only 6% proline.
And no
Think that collagen.
Yes.
No hydroxyproline.
Hydroxyproline is good for the bioactivity, for the terminals, for the bioactivity. So think that dairy proteins will have in average 10% glycine and proline, and collagen has got like 5 times that, 4 to 5 times that. So we have more capability of forming bioactive peptides than the globular proteins.
Yeah, and the bioavailability is another thing everyone wants to talk about. Often, I've seen a lot of the Gelita data where they trace the hydroxyproline absorption and distribution, and showing the bioavailability. And a lot of the time when we look at data about, wound healing and even, ligaments, tendons, fascia, they'll use the hydroxyproline, as a marker to see that it's being delivered there to enhancing things. So, because we Googled it, didn't we? Steve Googled it. Steve Googled it.
This is my research.
And Google said marine collagen's better,
yes,
because it's more bioavailable. And I thought collagen was pretty damn bioavailable.
It's very bioavailable. Yes, it's the same bioavailability as dairy proteins, egg proteins, or the considered high quality proteins. The bioavailability is the same, and that's one thing that people get very confused. Yeah. Well, let's get back to the definition of bioavailability. But bioavailability includes digestibility. What we are talking about now is digestibility, and bioavailability is the fact that the protein can be eventually be used in the body, or the amino acids and the peptides. So yes, it's from the moment it is digestible, which is 98% digestibility, and that's equal to whey protein, dairy proteins, which means all the amino acids pretty much are utilized, be it in a form of peptide or as amino acid. 98% of this protein is being absorbed, which is the maximum that you can get from a protein. Yes,
so it's hard to say. I mean, hard to say anything superior. I mean, 98%. If you might push there, like to 100%, but that's still a pretty negligible claim.
Yeah, it's pretty
and I know that in regards to marine versus bovine, you've got a good example of a particular product where you've made out of both, haven't you? With the skin one, the
Verisol.
The Verisol. Yeah. There was the marine versus the bovine.
Yes.
Are they different?
But we fixed that. That's a good question. We fixed that. So. How it happens with the bioavailability is, now we are saying we have a bioactive peptide effect, so we need the peptides to be bioavailable in the body and have its effect in the target part of the body. So all the amino acids are absorbed, and if they absorb, and 10-20% is absorbed as bioactive collagen peptides, so we have a cell stimulation, and all the other amino acids will be used as building blocks of the cartilage, of the tendon, ligaments, skin. But think that when we do marine, and we have done all the preclinical trials on it as well, which involves mainly doing the bioactivity effect and also checking the amino acid composition profile. Marine collagen will have a little bit less proline and hydroxyproline. Yes, and what we were able to cross-check in our preclinical trials is that we have also a reduced bioactivity from marine collagen. So we have hydrolyzed marine collagen with the same controls of enzyme, pH, temperature, achieved the same molecular weight distribution profile that I mentioned, the fingerprint, However, we notice a slightly lower bioactivity, and we are able to cross that with the reduced amount of hydroxyproline. So what we do in that case, we have taken that to a human study, but we doubled the dose. So instead of 2.5 grams of collagen, of bioactive collagen peptide for skin Verisol, we gave 5 grams, and we found a statistically significant effect. And this is what is important. So to compensate for the difference, we increased that dose. But what is important is we need the same molecular weight profile to be able to have more of the bioactive peptides in that pool.
Yeah.
So you need twice
and
of
this
it,
is
twice the amount.
That's
But
what you
we
were saying,
believe-
Susane, wasn't it? It just to clarify that, you're saying that the bovine Verisol was 2.5 grams and you needed to use the 5 grams of the marine to get the same effect cosmetically?
Yes, for the skin, yes. We haven't done marine peptide and body composition or
No.
tendons and ligaments. No, we have done only for the skin so far. But getting back to marine versus mammalian story, this difference and this difference in effect, I think it's simply, well, we are trying to understand that better, but our hypothesis is we are mammalians.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we are.
We are not a cow or a pig, but we are mammalians in
Yeah,
a way. So the mammalian collagen, bovine, porcine, has got then a very more similar profile of amino acids than our own collagen compared to a fish. But we were able to resolve that with Verisol that way. And that has been an interesting exercise because it has confirmed to us that it's all about the molecular weight distribution profile, and then we adjust that dose.
Yeah.
And then we have the same similar statistically significant effect in our studies.
Incredible. While we're on mammals, does it matter if the cow is grass or grain fed? We get that question a lot too. So you want to talk
we get
about
it
that?
as well.
You do get that?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. And are they
yes,
happy?
Yes, of course, that will have an impact in many aspects of meat. Yes, but I can assure you not in the bioactive collagen peptide, because at that stage, we are at such a purified stage. We are just talking about an amino acid chain, really.
Yep.
And that amino acid chain doesn't change if the cow has been fed grass or grain. But of course, if you were eating a steak, then maybe has a difference in the taste, in the lipid profile, for example, and in your conscience. I think that's very emotional thing as well. We are happy if the cow are happy, and we're happy to eat a happy cow. But in that sense, in the effect of the bioactive collagen peptide, that has no relationship because we are in an advanced purifying stage with the product.
Further to, I just want to make the comment, a lot of the grass-fed versus grain-fed debate came from the essential fatty acid profile. Everyone was talking about omega-3 is good and omega-6 is bad, and that you'll get the marbling. So the whole concept was as a grass-fed cow will be a lean, mean fighting machine with very low levels of fat. They put them on a grain-fed lot to fatten them up and marble them up, which increases their omega-6 in their oil profile. I think if you're getting subcutaneous cow fat in your collagen product, I think you got a little bit more to worry about with your collagen supply than whether it was a grass-fed or grain-fed. There shouldn't be any of this residual fat left over from the cow in your product to warrant the discussion around grass-fed, grain-fed. One thing that we have done with the Gelita products is we always test for pesticide residues, which we thought would be interesting, and it always comes up so clean. There's nothing there.
It's funny, but the other amazing thing while we're on fats and that is the macronutrient profile of pure collagen is I think about 96% protein. You know, do you want to comment on that? Yeah. Do you want to comment on that?
It's very high. It's mostly, yes, close to 90 high percent protein for sure, because we are just, again, providing the peptides. Of course, it comes with a little bit of fats and other things because this is a product in the end. But it's very purified. It's more purified than an isolate protein, if you want to classify in the normal language.
Yeah, I mean, they're still down at 1% lactose.
It's purely very, very high proportion and very focused on the protein portion of the amino acids because it's a peptide-focused product.
Well, we're talking about
all
those questions too, because we also got hit up. What were the other ones? We got someone said, "How dare you say it's all natural when it's from an animal?" And we had to remind them that animals are natural, not just plants. We also got accused of by saying it was dairy free. I said it's a cow. How could it be dairy free? And we're trying to explain that it's the milk that makes it dairy, and your collagen and your steaks are dairy free. So that's a couple of easy ones that we can just clear up right now.
Yeah, we've got to. God.
I interrupted you a little bit there, Susane. I think you were about to say something amazing. But otherwise, I was going to ask you to explain a little bit about, because we've talked about BodyBalance to a certain degree, but in regards to the BodyBalance peptides, that was the 15 grams, a dose of collagen, that was focusing towards building muscle, body composition, lean muscle mass, and that sort of stuff. You've managed to, we talked about the skin, so we can target the skin with the Verisol, but we've also got other peptides specifically designed for targeting different aspects of the joint capsule, from the tendons and the ligaments and the joints, and also bone. So it's same sort of process, I'm assuming, where we hydrolyze, we get you the peptides, and then we put them into a medical model and see what they do, and then you do expand the trials from there. Is that right?
Yes, we it's all about the connective tissue in the body, and I'll call it the white tissue. So if you look at the human body without the skin, you see the red tissue, which is the muscle fiber, and you see all the other white tissue in the body, which is very concentrated into, let's say, the abs, the back, knee, tendon, ligaments, and this is the white tissue. It's connective tissue. So we have 5 products in our range, simply because this is all one tissue, but the cells of the connective tissue, they are slightly different. So we have the fibroblasts, which is the most abundant connective tissue cell in the body. It's in the skin, it's in the muscle fascia, it's spread in the body. Yes, we have the chondrocytes localized in the joint cartilage. We have the tenocytes, ligamenocytes, which are the cells in the tendons and ligaments, which are actually fibroblasts. Very similar to the skin. And we have the osteoblasts, osteoclasts, which are the cells of the bone. And these cells are slightly different. And hence we have different products for each one of them, because each product, each molecular weight distribution profile, we have a higher affinity for each one of these cells. These cells, they are, of course, in this extracellular matrix environment, and they communicate, which is rich in collagen. So they communicate with the extracellular matrix with the integrin receptors, which are like antennas. And each antenna has got like a different profile. It's just like you coming with your laptop in the morning and you put on a docking station. Yes, you need a specific docking station or a lock and key fit. You cannot open all the doors in the world with one key. You have a specific key. So it's the same thing. So we need a specific molecular weight distribution profile, a fingerprint of this peptide to talk to each one of these cells. And that's how we distribute the portfolio. So Verisol for skin is, in average, 2 kilodaltons. Is a smaller, slightly more hydrolyzed bioactive pool of bioactive collagen peptides, which is equal to 10 to the 40, very similar to 10 to the 40, because these are all fibroblast cells. So here 2 products, skin and ligaments and tendons, but very similar molecular weight distribution profile. We have bones, which is larger, so 5 kilodaltons for the osteoblasts. And we find that the larger pool has a higher affinity for the cells in the bone. So we have 40 bone. And then in right at the middle-ish, with 3 kilodaltons, we have 40 gel that talks to the chondrocytes and the cartilage. So these are 4 products. And then we have BodyBalance, which is a different distribution profile, 3.5 kilodaltons, which talks to muscle cells and fat cells. And that's how we distribute the portfolio, because we test them in vitro for the different cells of the connective tissue, and we see consistently different responses.
Yeah, excellent. And you have a consistent manufacturing process, you have a consistent substrate starting material, You have a process which is measurable, so it's reproducible, and then you also have a bioactivity step where you can just assess to see, make sure it's going to work as expected. And you've also got the experience to know that even when you've matched it all up without doing the screening to make sure it's still going to work as expected, that you still could get surprised by things. And that's one of the big things that sets Gelita Collagen aside from the other collagen. How old is Gelita? Gelita's hundreds, isn't it?
Almost 150.
Yeah.
Hey, happy birthday.
So this is a company that's been focusing on... Steve, how old are you? Steve was there. He cut the ribbon.
I was there, I cut the ribbon.
Ceremony.
Steve is 200.
Yeah.
He has been using collagen peptides.
Exactly.
Can't you tell? Look how beautiful I look.
For the last 50 years.
That's why I look perfect.
For the last 150 years.
Yeah,
so he stopped in his 50s.
Yeah. So he's pretty well going back, Benjamin Button style. But he's attended most of these opening ceremonies and that sort of stuff. But
after I discovered America, it was all uphill. 60, 40.
So I tell you something that I found fascinating, because what I noticed is people get very passionate about things that usually aren't theirs. People these days are so keen to be offended on behalf of someone else, and then everyone else is like, "Oh, I'm a whey person, and I'm a creatine person, and it's all about the leucine content, you know." So you get all these people, and then everyone else just says, "Oh, he's on steroids," you know. So it's like people have these very strong opinions on things that aren't theirs, and they don't know the full story of. I printed this off, which is the people would do their technical stuff to make people see that. But I printed that off. When I saw it, it was a massive big poster at the ISSN conference in Vegas a couple of years ago. Now, I went there with my mate Rick Kreider, who introduced me to Eric Rawlson and all the creatine mob. Okay, so the ISSN's all creatine. They're obsessed with creatine. They love it. A lot of the people there are also mad keen whey supporters. They all love branch chains because branch chains is leucine, and But I tell you something that I was so stoked of. There was a moment there. So I was chatting to Stefan, who was presenting the poster, talking about the dosing studies, comparing what they did in this particular study. They were just showing dietary protein versus dietary protein with 15 grams of BodyBalance, and then dietary protein with 15 grams of whey, and showing the different efficacy in regards to a dosage study. So at the one conference, all chatting together, we had the godfather, grandfather, I never know which word is it, the pioneers of creatine. We had all the whey people. We had our collagen experts and that sort of stuff, who are the experts in this thing, the dead set people that have staked their whole life onto this sort of stuff. What I loved is in amongst the same conference, we also had people that didn't study any supplements. One of the cool guys I met there, Michael Roberts, and his paper I love so much. I keep talking about it. I'm a fanboy over this guy's paper. He did a paper where he broke people. He wanted to induce muscle hypertrophy. And what he did is he did these studies where he just wanted to make some people build crazy amounts of muscle so he could see what was building. There was no supplementation. He just tried to keep everything else consistent. Half of the people in the study lost muscle too, but what he did is he analysed the people that built this muscle and actually found out that, and this was presented at exactly the same conference, so these people could all talk about this, and he showed that what happens with muscle hypertrophy first is actually the swelling of the fascia. So the expanding of the sock, the sarcomeres and that sort of stuff. So with all the training, whether you're focused on vasodilators or training to get muscle pump, or whether the creatine is overly hydrating the muscle, all these different things, end result was the muscle swells. They're building the fascia, the collagen first, and then later all the muscle protein synthesis, the mTOR, that's where all the dietary protein become really important to fill up that shell with meat. You know what I mean? So what was really cool is when you have all of these people around together, when in just a room of academics, where everyone can drop the ego and just talk and try to get to the bottom of this stuff, watching these guys all discuss, going, oh, cool, that's how creatine will help with the hydration at the same time as collagen is helping the actual building of the infrastructure. And, of course, this is why when we add our dietary protein, it's great. And if the dietary protein has a little bit more leucine, then maybe it's a little bit better than not the leucine. You know what I mean? So when all these people are talking together, piecing it together, it was so cool. And we achieved so much in that, just one short weekend discussing that stuff. And that's where I reckon the real science is. And that's why it's so cool to see this sort of stuff so accepted within the academic community with ISSN and that sort of stuff anyway. And that's how we can actually get ahead with stuff, because we've learnt so much now. So that's what I was trying to say earlier, is in the early days, everyone was just saying, how's it compare to whey? How does it compare to branch chains? Now, people are so cool to understand that, hey, you never had to pick a team. It's okay. You can take both. You can do, if it fits your macro, you can just work out your protein and do dietary or be plant, or you can do whey, but you can always add the collagens, that they're additive. They were going to support to the collagen. You don't have to not eat other food because you've chosen to take a protein supplement from collagen, so.
I like broccoli, but I still eat other vegetables. So same thing. What I love, and Matt alluded to it, is Matt asked me to print off some of the scientific papers, so I picked most of them and printed them off, and I got in trouble in the office for hogging the printer. That's how much science there is behind the use of collagen for building muscle. So I noticed that a lot of the studies on BodyBalance, if we just go back to that one, is on 15 grams. Did you want to comment about that magic number and why it's lower than whey, which people take 30 to 40? Why 15? There seems to be a magic number there.
Yes, why 15? We are concentrating the bioactive collagen peptide in there. And we did a dose finding study. We checked 10 grams, 15 grams, and 20 grams. And we found that the difference between 20 and 15 grams was just 2.6%. Yes, which was not statistically significant. And we did this dose finding also looking into 20, because this is where most of the protein advice is. Back in 2006, 7, 8, to be honest, I worked in the dairy industry before, and I was directly involved in the first whey protein dose response study.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, yes, I haven't told you my background, but yes, I've worked 6 years with whey proteins.
Oh.
And then I found, like you're saying, the science on collagen so interesting that I got the invitation from Stefan, who I know for 10 years, to just come work with us. And I said, oh, great insider to this. And then I'm fascinated by the science of collagen. But getting back, so we started with 20 grams, because this is what was the first protein dose response studies found, that 20 grams after that you are oxidizing leucine. So we started from that point. But we also had the view that, like with everything bioactive collagen that we do, that we are able to reduce the dose by concentrating on the bioactive substance. So we did 10, 15, 20. All of them were effective. But the difference between 20 and 15 was very small. And we know we have to make it practical as well. We know that it's much easier to put in a product 15 for the consumers, for the cost, for everything. Waste, yes? It's easier to put 15, 10, 15 than 20. And hence the magic number is not a magic number, but as a very, built on the science that was done previously on protein and the bioactive collagen peptides as well, and those finding, and we got to 15 grams.
So I was curious.
That's how we found it.
In that, the original BodyBalance paper, the confidential one that I got to read, and also in these dose finding ones that they're looking at, they compared it to 15 grams of whey. And that was one of the, not a criticism, but it was one of the questions I had, because most of the people out there are saying, I need my 30 grams of protein, I need 30 grams. That's all 30 grams that people were doing, 30 and 40 grams. So one of the things I predicted as something I had to counter would be the people asking, why would it be 15 grams of whey that you were comparing it to and not the 30 that everyone uses? But you just alluded to the fact that you know a little bit about the dosing of whey and what the effective dose of whey should be, and you're saying less than 20 grams.
Yes, well, all about how the studies have been done. And in those response studies that got to 20 grams, actually they were just moving one limb. They were just doing muscle protein synthesis in the legs. Yep. And then the concept of actually taking 30, 40 of whey protein evolved as people started to look into that from a whole body exercise perspective,
okay.
and that increases a bit. And now we have a recommendation by kilo per kilogram of body weight. But with the bioactive collagen peptides, again, that is slightly different. Yes, because we are talking about a bioactive effect, that it's about switching on a cell to build up. But most importantly is we evaluated all that 3 months later in a full body exercise program consistently across all our studies. So we started with the sarcopenia study in elderly, and we saw basically, I think it's the best way that you can show something is, let's do this exercise for 3 months, it's 12 weeks, and considering all the factors of life, because people are free living, let's see if there is an effect in the end. And there was. And then, okay, let's then look back and try to investigate, because here we are selling a product. We need to sell the endpoint benefit. We are not writing the textbooks or the pathways of physiology. Yes, we want to sell an effective product. And I hold strong with the fact that we have done the right procedure. We tested in vitro, had a hypothesis, tested, and proved that 3 months later, people are able to increase muscle mass, reduce fat mass, and depending on the level of training, also potentially increase strength. Yes. And we have done that consistently, same methodology for elderly, women, men, trained men, and we consistently find the same effect.
Love it.
The resistance trained, the young resistance trained men paper was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because that had a lot of the new lessons that you've learned. That was never in any of the previous stuff. A lot more explanation of how it's working, where it's different. And when you look at that research, then you look at independent research without products, like follow the stuff that Mike Roberts and the ISSN guys are doing that's not linked in with supplementation, and you'll see. And then compare that to the other supplements. It all starts to make so much sense now. We're starting to understand.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, in regards to the whey, talking about the 15 or 30 grams, again, it's not the sole source of nutrition. So what we're talking about is people eating protein foods all day. And what I loved about some of those studies is there's a school of thought within the sports world of that if it fits your macros, I don't care if it's clean or dirty, whatever, hit that protein and you're going to be fine. Well, that's the placebo branch of your study. So in the placebo branch, you told people how much protein to eat. That's if it fits your macros. Eat whatever the protein you like. Then part of those people got their if it fits your macros, but allocated a section to whey, and then another group allocated a section to BodyBalance, and you could see a statistically significant difference. But whey was superior to if it fits your macros. So whey was superior to just diet, but then the collagen was superior to the whey again in their bioefficacy. But the cool thing is from what we understand now, like 5 years later, totally different mechanisms. So it's kind of cool that people can understand you need to eat your protein, and we can use some collagen to build the infrastructure.
No, and we are talking about, we all call it muscle, but we are talking about completely different tissues in their composition, but which are highly synergistic.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. So muscle red fiber is formed by this pool of essential amino acids. Yep. But the fascia, as you talked about, the bags that involves and surrounds every single muscle fiber, is a completely different tissue. It's mostly collagen, has got a high profile of proline and glycine. But what happened in the evolution of science there as well is not much long ago, I would conservatively say 2 years ago, and you still find these researchers that firmly believe that the connective tissue does not turn over. But we have two very interesting studies. One came out, I think, in November, October last year, with it's called Smith et al. From Maastricht University, and they have done state-of-the-art, the latest methodology, available. And they have shown that actually the connective tissue in general, especially in the adjoint, so the cartilage, the synovial fluid, the aponeurosis on top of the knee and the tendon ligaments, they are turning over at the same rate of the muscle of the quadriceps.
Wow.
And actually, if you look closer into that data, you will see that very active tendons and ligaments, or maybe tendons, they are turning over actually higher than the quadriceps.
Wow.
So first of all, there is a high turnover. And this year, they published a follow-up study actually saying that this tissue also incorporates amino acids. And interestingly, they did the study with casein, and they showed that casein does not switch on the connective tissue protein synthesis,
There you go.
but the amino acids are incorporated into the turnover. So I think we are very much close to
I'm just
prove.
thinking about this turnover. I mean, everything else we talk about with turnover, obviously we need the diet to support that. Now, collagen, I mean, in the past, maybe there was a lot more collagen in our diet, but maybe if you eat a lot of sausages and processed meat, you still might be getting a lot of
Collagen.
offal, whatever. But the collagen, it's not a big part of our diet these days. You're not seeing a lot of people having these big soups and stews. Like one of my favourite foods to eat, I go to Yum Cha and get tripe, and everyone goes, "Oh, what a freak!" But it's like we don't have many of these things in our diet. If you've actually gone fully plant-based and vegan, you won't be getting any except maybe a bit of hydroxyproline out of your alfalfa sprouts. But
Yes.
so seriously, I mean, even if you weren't trying to build something or regenerate or go anti-aging 200-year-old person like Steve, you need to eat this stuff because you're not going to get it, and you've got to turn it over and make it. And that's why you were saying in the elderly they deplete in collagen. Is that right? Or
Yes, you're very right that we are eating less and less collagen because we are going for eating less meat, or sometimes people remove the skin of the chicken because of the fat. So yes, people are eating less collagen. But I want to point out something to you, because you must be like me. I'm in this industry since the late 90s. And at that time, I worked with products. Do you remember those liquid amino acid syrups that people used to pour? I worked in the industry. I made those products. And that's how, actually, Gelita, I know Gelita since the mid-90s because I worked in my home country in Brazil.
Yeah.
And we used to get products from Gelita at that time. And those products, majority of products in sports nutrition at that time had a combination of collagen and whey protein.
Yeah.
Those syrups were collagen and whey protein in that combination. And suddenly, and with the evolution of sports nutrition and the peak of the whey protein science, it became all about whey protein and essential amino acids and branched chain amino acids. And this format, actually, I'm not sure in Australia, but I don't see this format anywhere anymore. And now it's all about whey protein. So we changed even the composition of the supplements in sports nutrition. If you look back, remember those liquid amino acids, like 38,000 milligrams of amino acids per dose. I'm the old school. I'm the old school. And if you look back and search, you see that was a combination of collagen, and at that time potentially even more effective, because we are talking about feeding two, as I said before, two completely different tissues in their composition. Collagen in your body hasn't got tryptophan either, so you don't need the tryptophan to build collagen in your body. And we are stimulating this tissue. Now we know that it's turning over at the same rate as the muscle, so it needs the amino acid building blocks. So we have a hint that a dairy protein cannot switch on the protein synthesis in the connective tissue, but let's see if collagen can. And
absolutely.
According to our studies, the bioactive collagen peptides can. Yes. And so for us, again, it's no surprise that we find the findings and the increasing lean muscle mass, lean body mass that we see in the BodyBalance study, simply because we are bringing in the nutrition into the diet. We have done that exercise, and our average diet actually has got a surplus of essential amino acids. So if you look at the protein score, now let's get back to the very beginning of our chat. If you look at the protein score of our diets, they are overestimated. They are above the needs of essential amino acids by 30 to 60%, depends on the essential amino acid you look into. Yes, however, a more favorable amino acid profile is needed, because you also need to feed this connective tissue that is adapting and actually is declining as we age. So the protein, the high quality protein for growth, I think it completely turns around. Yeah, completely opposite needs of the amino acid needs for aging.
maintenance.
Of course, we need to prove that. We need to prove that. But today, it doesn't prevent us from doing the right thing. We have 6 studies on body balance that show the same endpoint benefit, increasing lean body mass.
Yeah.
So it doesn't prevent us from going to market with collagen and giving this benefit to your consumers. Yes, because what they are doing is bringing these collagen amino acids into their diet and then having the support to grow also the muscle fascia, the tendons and ligaments, because it's the tendons and ligaments that will transform the muscle contraction into power. Yeah, it has a huge role to play.
Yeah, the power aspect. I heard a stat, something like 6 to 10% of our muscle mass may be connective tissue, but up to 30% of our power can be generated from that connective tissue. So it's significant amount of power, and it makes sense because the biggest, strongest lifters that you see are usually little, like low to the ground. Makes it easier, I suppose, to lift it up high. But they're not the massivest people, but they look like they've got a lot of connective tissue. They're just this
wire.
Climbers.
Yeah.
And think about when you aging, our grandmothers, if I wouldn't say our mothers, our grandmothers, because you're all very young, right? If they have arthritis or if you have a tendon problem, you cannot even open a can. So huge amount of force is related to your connective tissue.
Oh, and DOFs. We had a thing talking about DOMs. We argued, we did a bit of research when there's people that delayed onset muscle soreness. We actually went and worked out that was all coming from the fascia. So it was all the fascia soreness, and it was that fascia recovery that was trying to happen in the days after.
So I'm glad that this attention to the connective tissue is emerging, and there will be many others. I can tell you there will be many others because we are learning a lot about the role of the connective tissue. And if you look at the profile of proteins in the diet in general, all the vegetable proteins that have emerged as well, pea proteins, soy proteins, and etc. No protein will have the amount or the profile of glycine and proline, of these key amino acids in collagen that collagen has. You can replace a dairy protein with a combination of vegetable proteins and achieve that amino acid profile, but you can replace collagen. Yes, and what we do with collagen is to make it even more optimal, as I explained, for that particular benefit. But no protein, and hence became, as I said earlier, collagen versus collagen. Yes. Because there is no competition to collagen in the connective tissue space, because no other proteins can supply that, and we are starting to see the science. So we watch it all. It's very interesting for us, and we hold very firm in the body balance concept. And actually, we are very glad to work with ATP because you were one of the first to buy into our innovation, into our concept, into this idea, because not many people do. They think it's, protein quality score 0. It's not used by the body, and people don't understand. So we are very glad actually that you do.
Well, there's something that we're really passionate about, and it just made so much sense. And it did make a lot of sense, but the protein score and all that sort of stuff didn't. But the need for collagen did. And partly one of the reasons why I initially was very focused on it is because I'm really dairy intolerant. I can't handle lactose. I react badly to whey, and I just wanted milkshakes. So I was looking at all my yummy treats that we could make out of collagen, and so I've gone and made all the drinks and the bars and all that sort of stuff now, and trying to make fast-moving all sorts of stuff coming out using your material for different ways of using it. Because, I mean, to get macros the way they are with like no carbs, no fat and all the protein and being so versatile, it allows us to create all sorts of different products. And now that we have also access to all these different customized peptides, so we can create other blends to specifically target different parts of the body. It's so cool. We can't do that with any other protein. The thing that kind of started to bug me a bit, though, is that I see all these, now that everyone's accepted collagen as okay and cool and in fact a damn good idea, most people now are trying to use the Gelita research to sell their product saying that ours does the same thing as Gelita, even though we don't know what ours is. So these other companies, they don't know what the peptides are, they don't know the amines, they don't know your process of how you make it, they can't reproduce it, and they don't screen it or test it. And then they say it does the same as all of their stuff does because it's collagen. Oh, by the way, ours is grass-fed.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where it's starting to bug me, you know.
I have a good example for you.
Yeah.
A good study. Yeah, there is a study that I invite you to have a look from Bongers et al., published February this year.
Yep.
So it's very recent. And they did a joint health study, a joint pain study, very similar to our Fortigel concept. So our Fortigel study, as I said, is a 5-gram dose. And the bioactive collagen peptide has got this profile of in average 3 kilodaltons. And in this study, they tested very similar methodology, peptide, a generic collagen peptide of 2 kilodaltons and 10 grams. So they doubled the dose, but didn't have the same molecular weight distribution profile because it was 2 kilodaltons. And they did not find a statistically significant effect in joint pain.
Right.
I invite you to have a look into that. So just summarizes what we are talking about, that molecular weight distribution profile with a lower dose, we have a statistically significant effect across 4 studies right now. We still do to publish 2, but 4 studies right now. And they didn't find. So that illustrates what you were talking about.
Yeah, and then the same problems can happen, though, where we get the people using your positive research to sell their collagen and say that their cows are happier or something. Then another company will then use those negative studies on the collagen to discredit your studies of different material. So they're saying, oh, look, a paper just got published on collagen and it didn't work.
Yes.
And you're like, oh.
Yeah,
wanker.
but if you look at the studies on collagen, some studies on collagen, comparing collagen with whey protein right now, what they are doing as well, think that they are giving 60 grams of collagen per day.
Yeah.
And then it's too much. We are talking about 15 grams. And we did this exercise. As I said, we have a surplus of essential amino acids from 30% at least in the diet. So in our calculations, if you have around 36% of collagen in your diet, you are in balance. You have a protein quality score overall in your diet of 1. PDCAS 1 in your diet, which means you can enjoy the benefits of bioactive collagen peptides without messing about with the balance of essential amino acids in your diet, if that is the concept. Yes, and what these studies are doing, they are giving 60 grams of collagen, and I estimate that is around 50% of the diet is collagen. So I think that causes an amino acid imbalance in the diet. Yes, because of course the essential amino acids are needed. We are not saying that they are not needed, but that potentially, according to our calculations, that causes an amino acid imbalance in the diet that may be being in detriment to the group, to the collagen group. Who takes 60 grams of collagen? Maybe the horses in the studies that we do with animals, but not anyone.
We both work for collagen companies. We don't do it.
Well, I had a fair bit today. But,
even in our taste testing, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I had a bit today.
So I call your listeners to really pay attention to that details in those studies, because it seems like it's done to the detriment to prove that collagen is wrong. I have that reminds me of a saying, which is, what is dangerous is not what you don't know, it's what you know that you believe. I will revise the quote. Yeah, you know the quote?
Yeah.
I think that should illustrate this podcast, because this is what it is. People firmly believe in the essential amino acid and the protein quality concept and don't challenge, they just repeat it. People just regurgitate the message, but very few people challenge it.
Good. It's good to challenge it. Good to challenge your own beliefs, because that's the only way to grow. And, you know, when I was trained in the 90s, it was all about the amino acids. That we were just told,
1890s.
When I trained in the 1890s, all the proteins just broke down to amino acids and then just came back in the body. So, I mean, and we've got to get over that. that's old news, and now we know. Matt mentioned a great study that was published 2019 where you gave the BodyBalance, and the young trained men got more muscle on, and the total amount of protein they ate was actually less than the other group, and yet they still put on more muscle, which proves that point. It was 1.86 per grams per kilo compared to 1.66 of the BodyBalance group, and they put on more muscle. That just proves that point. So it's really interesting when the science comes out.
And it's never more is better. We never see a linear line. The more we take, the more we're going to get. It's always parabolic. There's always that sweet spot. You were talking before about the red tissue and white tissue, with the white tissue being the fascia, and it's a good way of people having a look at an anatomy physiology chart to see what we're talking about. But what percentage of the protein in our body is collagen? Because that's what we're feeding, isn't it? We're supporting. It's like something. It's the most abundant protein in our body, isn't it?
Yep, it is
30%.
30%.
30% of the body.
30% of the body is collagen. So collagen is the most abundant protein in the body.
So
absolutely.
Little stats like that make it kind of obvious.
It's hard to believe that people think, taking collagen, even from the concept of only amino acids, because of course we're talking collagen from a bioactive effect, but even from the concept of building blocks of amino acids, it's hard to believe that people don't get that concept, because we only think about the muscle, but it's the collagen is the most abundant protein in the body. And worst of all, we are really losing it as we age. And it seems like the fascia is the limiting factor as well for the muscle growth, for the optimal muscle growth. So we need to adapt the fascia. We need to give the right substrate, the right amino acids for the fascia to maybe allow and see if the muscle can grow further. And I think that's why we get these remarkable effects with the BodyBalance in our research, because we are allowing for the adaptation of the fascia, I suppose. Yes, we definitely need to understand this better, but rest assured that we are doing the work to understand this better, and soon we might have some new results to share.
Tease away. You're teasing us now.
Investigating this.
Well, we're going to have you back
it's
on.
fascinating. We definitely we'll have lots of content to follow up in many podcasts. But yes, and the role of fascia as well. Of course, we're talking about the muscle, but there will be many other roles as well that we can discuss maybe in the future. But we're starting to find out many things, and I think collagen is going to really come to the fore. But again, it's not in replacement of other proteins. That's not at all. Point. It's on its own. It's a tissue on its own. That it's got a very different composition from the muscle, and therefore have different nutritional needs.
And we need to nourish that. When you say we need different nutritional needs, what we're talking about is there's a 30% of the protein in our body it's turning over. We need to replenish it. We have to get it from somewhere. And if you don't eat the collagen with hydroxyproline, the others will get proline out of plants, hydroxylate it with vitamin C and make the hydroxyproline, or they'll use other amino acids to try to make it, but it's not going to be as efficient as using a collagen to support collagen.
Yes, that's obvious. A good point, because when you just do the collagen amino acids from the endogenous process, of course it has a cost to the body, is delayed, and produces metabolites, sometimes reactive oxygen species. So it's much easier or much less cost to the body, more efficient to take them as they are.
Makes sense.
So we speed up things, and in the case of the bioactive collagen peptides, it becomes even more important, because think that in sports, if you're an athlete, you're training for your first marathon, and then you don't want to get injured. But if you get injured, think that you want to recover as soon as possible, because every week, every day of training is counting, yes? So that's the objective of the bioactive collagens in sports as well, especially with Tendoforte, Fortigel, which are more related to that part of overuse, let's say, in sports, yes? It's really accelerating the recovery specifically. Yeah, so if I take a collagen that goes to my skin or goes elsewhere, I need it for my tendons because I'm feeling it, or I hurt it and I want to recover it. So that's another purpose of the targeted bioactivity Yes, because then we can direct the collagen and the amino acid building blocks to that cell that is stimulated by the bioactivity of the collagen. So there's also the speed of achieving things. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, and we've talked about it's suitable for most people. I mean, it's probably not ethical to do it on studies on the children, but it'd be interesting. Have you ever done any experiments on children for the collagen? No, cool. I was just curious.
No.
Sounded really dodgy the way I asked that.
You've experimented.
I didn't mean it that way. So an interesting thing I've always had, this is a personal opinion of mine, I could possibly be wrong. It has happened once before.
Just once.
That time, remember 1812?
Yeah, I remember 1812.
He was there.
I was there.
I forgot what I was going to talk about. I was trying to imagine how bloody old you were. No, women. I've always had this thing that women need more, and the reason why I say that is because with the menstrual cycle, so what we understand on a monthly cycle, these women are building collagen and breaking down collagen. The same fibroblasts that are instructed to break down the collagen associated with the endometrium and that sort of stuff so we can have a menstruation, same signals go to the fibroblasts in our skin and our tendons and all over our body and actually break down a bit of collagen. So we're having this extra breakdown and need to replenish on a monthly cycle, even to the point that we've got all those data showing at different stages of the menstrual cycle, women are more predisposed to certain types of injuries.
Yeah.
Well, their feet are longer in ovulation or something, Steve? Was that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember.
Feet
With this menstrual cycle, it changes so much. And I mean, so with someone that's going through so much collagen turnover through battling through a menstrual cycle for your whole time, with the reward being extra wrinkles and potentially cellulite, for your reward of dealing with all this monthly drama, women really need to make sure that they're supporting their collagen renewal and that sort of stuff. I know men, we're ugly anyway. So I think with the women, I think it's really important because you're going through that extra turnover. But we need to support all collagen. It's not just cosmetic collagen in regards to women, which I find that they're all going, oh no, I don't need these other ones because I'm taking my cosmetic collagen. And often they're like tiny smidgen doses mixed into a cup of coffee or ready to drink or something like that, not the therapeutic doses. And it's only a little bit to target the skin where they need more than everyone else, I believe, you know, so.
Yes, women is a very interesting, it's very interesting what you're saying, because women potentially has got the higher need. We have done studies in postmenopausal women, and particularly with 40-bone. And the studies, the results of the 40-bone study, they are fascinating because we looked into bone mineral density. And as we all know, postmenopausal, the bone mineral density normal line is to decrease. So when we did the study, we gave them 5 grams of 40-bone for 1 year. So we had the control group and the intervention group, and we were expecting to flatten the line, you know, bring the line a little bit more flattened. But what we saw is that actually they had an increase in bone mineral density.
Wow.
Because if you think about, and of course the decrease in bone mass in women, it's all about what you're saying, the change, the hormonal change that women go through that absolutely slashes collagen. So I totally agree that it's not, we should see beyond beauty and aesthetics with collagen. Yes, because bone, for example, 90% of the mass of your bone is collagen. Collagen is the protein of bones, pretty much.
How much did you say? Sorry,
90%.
90%. Now I'm going to ask you a question
of the dry matter.
Dry matter.
30% of the dry matter.
What percentage
of the minerals and everything?
What percentage of your hair and fingernails is collagen?
No, we have keratin.
Yes, I thought so.
Yes, we don't have collagen. And
everyone's going on about we need it's going to restore your hair finger. The collagen builds your hair finger. It builds your hair. We need collagen in our hair. It does the nail bed, doesn't it? Like, don't we help the nail bed? We help the scalp.
Yes.
But there's none actually in the hair. So these people saying, I'm going to build collagen hair. That's wrong.
But the hair and the nails, they grow in the skin.
Yes.
Yes. So we have done a study with Verisol on hair now, and we've seen the hair thickness, like we increased hair thickness. And in our in vitro experiment as well, we saw a 30% increase in the hair follicle.
Yeah.
But the hair follicle It's in the skin. So from the moment Verisol is stimulating the skin cells, fibroblasts and keratinocytes. So the keratinocytes are the cells that are more at the surface of the skin, and these cells are producing keratin that goes into the nails and the hair. So from the moment you stimulate these cells produce their own proteins, like we produce our own collagen in the skin, but that cell in particular will produce the keratin that will form nails and hairs. So yes, there is no collagen in hair and nails, but the collagen, the peptide, the bioactive collagen peptide will stimulate those cells to produce their own proteins. Yes, and that proteins keratin. So there is a relationship, but the hair and nails are not formed by the collagen. But the bone is.
Bone is absolutely.
And that outcome with women.
I love the way you say cartilage.
Cartilage.
I was just talking about the cartilage a bit more.
Yes. The cartilage.
I love it.
Yes, because we have the chondrocytes in the cartilage, and then we stimulate the chondrocytes, and they will produce their own type 2 collagen. Yes.
So what I'm curious about, this is one thing I wanted to ask about that, because this is something I thought would be really cool if this is the case, but I could be wrong, and then I'll look like a wanker, and we might want to edit it out. But with the osteoarthritis, they get that full. The old chooks usually come in and go, I'm bone on bone, like it's there's no cartilage left, and they'll show these X-rays that they got the osteophytes, which are the little calcium spurs that go through the breaking in the cartilage and that sort of stuff. Now, what I was curious about is I've always had this idea based on the glucosamine chondroitin stuff, where everyone said, it fuels the hyaluronic acid backbone from the chondrocytes. So I always thought, well, if you've worn off the edge of if the cartilage is gone and you're digging in, you've got bits of bone sticking up, are there any chondrocytes left in there to feed? Or if we were to support with the 40 bone, has that got any ability to remodel the bone cartilage chondrocyte interface?
We haven't gone that far, but it's an interesting insight. We haven't gone that far.
If you do and you find it, I own that. Okay?
Yes, you want it, I'll give you exclusivity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep that recording.
The cartilage, yes. Once we destroy it, the cells are gone. And the effect of the bioactive collagen peptides is to stimulate those cells. So if there is no cell to stimulate, we cannot build collagen. So it's dead. It's gone. So we have to act on it before it goes. So we have to have some cartilage there or cells there left. But from the perspective of the bone, no, we have not gone that far. That's an interesting question. I like it.
Yeah, cool.
Good question.
Tell Stefan tell him to look into that for us.
Next trial.
That's our next trial.
Go. In the list.
The ATP.
In the ATP list.
List thing.
Types of collagen.
Everyone says, is it type 1 or 2? Because I need that, but it's type 3 or it makes a 4. Could you explain these different types and what type we need to make what type of type?
There's 28 collagens, so you got to narrow it down to the first 5.
There is no discussion on collagen that's the type, is it? So we close on a high. Yeah, the type is a very interesting one because, of course, there are more than 28 types of collagen in the body. Yeah, because they have different functions in the body, and we are more and more discovering them. If you look at evidence from 10, 15 years ago, they say in the papers 12, 15, and now it's 28. So they have a different function in the body. However, on the shelves, for us, that is irrelevant. Yes, because think that when we hydrolyze collagen, we are breaking this structure. So the structure of collagen in the body is this triple helix that form this rope. However, to put that in a product or to do a bioactive peptide, we have to hydrolyze it, we have to break it. So the first thing that we're going to lose is the type, is this configuration. So it doesn't matter. There are differences in the amino acids, but they are not more than 15%. And according to our in vitro tests, especially doing this molecular weight distribution profile and in vitro tests, these have no difference whatsoever in the effect. So it's important, the types are important in the body, but not on the shelf. So when you hydrolyze, when you talk about collagen peptides, types don't matter.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes,
And-
especially because, for example, your skin bones, they are mainly type 1, but they also have the type 3, and they will have like tiny bits of type 5 that they are facet will have some type 5, but that's the structure that they need to act in the body.
Yeah.
Yes, and once we hydrolyze, we lose it.
Yeah, right.
We lose it.
That's
So,
crazy.
of course, it's a very simple communication to a consumer to say, oh, type 1 collagen for the skin because
Yeah.
the skin is type 1, or for the joints,
But what
type
about
2, because the
digestion?
joints type 2.
Would we be hydrolyzing it anyway? So if we were to consume chicken sternum because it's the best one for my knees or something,
type 2,
wouldn't I eat it and digest it and hydrolyze, just change that collagen type within the digestive process?
Yeah, the chicken sternum one, which is the UC2 that
Type
you're probably
2, yeah.
talking about, that you take in 40 milligrams, they have a different mode of action.
Yeah, righto.
They talk to the
Chondrocytes, yeah.
immunoterminals in the gut,
Okay.
the Pyer patches, and they work via regulatory T cells that go to the joint and reduce inflammation. So it's a immunomodulation effect that are pros and cons.
Yep.
I would say first you need to have an inflammatory, out of order inflammatory effect process going on already in your joint
Yep.
for the product to be somehow effective, because if there is no inflammation, there is no effect.
Wow.
But when you take it and there is no inflammation, what happens then? Because you are down-regulating your immune system in a way to curb an inflammation. So the mode of action there is completely different and happens prior to absorption into the body.
Okay.
Yes, and it's almost like an anti-inflammatory. It's different.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's only 40 milligrams. It's not giving you the building blocks of collagen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You never get that nutritive effect there.
No, the Pyer patches
And
and
you
T-Rex.
have to have an inflammatory process going in your joint.
Yeah,
But the
okay.
collagen peptides that you take in even before your digestion process, the product, that type is not there, not even before you ate it. It's not there. So
Okay.
it's not that even your digestion process is going to destroy the type, because in your spoon, the type's not there anymore.
Yeah, right.
So it's types important in the body, not on their shelves.
Amazing.
Okay, that's good to
It's
know.
it's a big misconception about collagens, the
Yeah.
types.
That's incredible. I've learned so much today.
Oh, so have I, Steve. You're 200 years old, mate. You should be like teaching us this stuff.
I should have learnt it all by 200 years, you'd think. It happened. I mean, well, what an amazing...
Well, I think that was fascinating. I haven't got anything else. I reckon that was so cool. No, but I can't wait. We've got to do more. I'll let you go because you've got
We
a
will.
big day ahead of you. And
I have the day ahead, but great start to the day for me. Very nice to talk to you. I can't believe that we haven't done this earlier, but
I know.
I believe that you leave the best to the end, right?
Oh, of course we
Of
do.
course. And
Say
we're going to
yes.
do more.
And Susan,
We're gonna
thanks.
do more, yeah.
Thanks for
I'll be
getting up
looking
early
forward to
for
talking
us.
to you.
I mean,
My pleasure.
It's been
Very
a
nice.
great evening / morning, and we've enjoyed the conversation. I've learnt so much.
Me too.
Yeah.
And well, hopefully we'll get you back on real soon.
Thank
Me
you.
too. Very
All right.
nice to talk to you.
Take
Have a
care.
nice
See you next
evening.
time.
See you, Suzanne.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.